Have you ever met the connector? Well, he ponders, he helps, he creates, he writes, he speaks. He basically connects people and brings them together. I speak about Paul Solano of PS and All Marketing Group. At psandallmarketinggroup.com, you will receive an assembled group of Paul's contacts and connections that cross into many sectors of life. Please contact Paul Solano at 617-240-4130 or psandallmarketinggroup@gmail.com if you are in the market for a wide array of services. Again, please contact The Connector, Paul Solano at 617-240-4130 or psandallmarketinggroup@gmail.com with any questions. And now, here's Paul Solano, the host of Paul Ponders.
Welcome to Paul Ponders. My name is Paul Solano of PS and All Marketing Group, and I may be reached via email at paul@paulponders.com. Thank you for joining me for my foray into podcasting. It is great to be collaborating with my friend and associate, Chalonzo Amos of PodPro Entertainment, to bring you some fun, exciting, and informative podcasts. For many years, I've been referred to as the connector, or in Greater Boston circles as the connector. With psandallmarketinggroup.com, I've created a side gig to connect you and get things done. Please sit back and relax and listen to today's podcast. If you are driving or operating heavy machinery and just listening, then please just listen and stay focused on your task at hand. Thanks again for listening. Enjoy my ponderings. Let #PaulPonders begin. Greetings, everyone. How is everyone doing this fine day? I want to welcome you back to another episode of #Paul Ponders. It's really great to have you here. And again, I want to thank everyone for subscribing, for rating us, for reviewing us, and really just being a fan of #Paul Ponders. Now, I do want to point out that we have a repeat sponsor for this episode, and it is Riverworks Credit Union, RWCU as it's known. But Riverworks Credit Union is a non-profit financial institution owned by its membership and established in 1936, NMLS number 410564. We want to thank them for their sponsorship. They're also a member of the NCUA, Equal Housing Lender member, and Massachusetts Credit Union, MSIC, Share Insurance Corporation, where your savings are financially, federally insured to at least $250,000 and backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. Give a shout out to Mr. Dave Jensen, former Boston Bruin and U.S. Olympian hockey player. He works out of the Lynn and Lynnfield offices. There are branches in Lynn, Dorchester, and Lynnfield of Riverworks Credit Union, so we thank them for the sponsorship. So again, welcome back, and it's really great to have everyone joining us. And as I often say, and it is true, people just stop me on the streets. They stop me at Stop and Shop at Pearl Street Station Restaurant, and they say, "Paul, what a wonderful podcast you had last week. Months ago, you had a wonderful podcast. Great job." Well, tonight we have a returning guest, and his name is Mr. Bob Hyldburg. Bob, welcome.
Thank you very much, my friend. Paul, we've been dear friends for a long time, so this is an honor to be on your podcast again.
Indeed, we have, Bob, and it's really great to have you on again. And in this episode, we're going to focus in on your business that you've launched. It's a life coaching business. Everyone knows you as the Patriots historian and author of 2 wonderful books about the New England Patriots. But really, I just want to let everyone know that this episode is anything goes, life coaching, and it's about the Untold and the Unlimited. And this is part of Untold and Unlimited LLC. So why don't you give our listeners just a brief overview of what that's about and what you're about with your great background in life coaching. Bob, take it away.
All right, Paul, thanks very much. Well, I think part of it was just really understanding that there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with uncertainty. There's some anxious people. There are people that are having some issues, especially after COVID. For a while, I just took some time off and said, all right, I've had a great life and worked for the NFL and written a couple books and done book signings and public speaking for a long time. And then I started getting calls and found out that there's a lot of people out there that just need some help and support. And we're all, as people, and you being a connector, everyone likes human connection. Everyone likes to be heard and understood and be part of a community. So one of the things that I thought of is, I've been around the Patriots for 40 years or so, initially starting as Bob the Stat Man, just doing bios of the players. And Steve Grogan and other players would do autograph signings, and I would put a little bio together so people would be educated about their career. And that ended up getting some notoriety of trying to get Gino Cappelletti into the Hall of Fame, and then Total Patriots, a book by Triumph Books, published in 2009. And then we've updated that and put some of the stats in my second book called Relive Patriots History in the Patriots Hall of Fame computer display. But in the process of writing and researching the history of the Patriots since 1960, I've had a chance to really find out, how do people become successful in life? I mean, how did Gino Cappelletti, who was, MVP in 1964 and runner-up in 61 and should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and then his whole career of being an announcer, how did he get to that level? What kind of obstacles did he have to overcome, and anxieties and adversity? And from Gino Cappelletti all the way through to guys that I've met like Troy Brown and Gronkowski and guys like that, overcoming injuries. Everyone has some kind of story. I mean, you have a story, I have a story. And, I said, let's come up with a company that's untold. Everyone wants to share their story of how they get there, or how do I get there? And, I've been kind of mentoring people. When I wrote my first books, people said, how did you write a book? And I says, one page at a time, one chapter at a time. If I found something that I wanted to look up, it might take me 2 months to find that one thing. And that's all I concentrated on, was just doing that one thing, finding, an obscure stat that happened 13 times. And I would spend 2 months until I found all 13 times and just concentrate on that one thing. And that's how you kind of attack life. I had a vision, I had a purpose. The reason I think that I started in writing was that I wanted to know, for my own purposes, the uniform number of every Patriots player that ever played. And then when I contacted the Patriots and got a media guide, there was 19 guys that had NA next to their name. And when I called the Patriots, they said, what is NA? And said, it's not available. We don't know. We don't care. And there are still media guides. I was looking the other day, and I looked up the Denver Broncos, their media guide, and they still have 3 players that they don't know their uniform number. So I wonder how many teams really in their history don't have every single player's uniform number. Back in the 60s and 70s, there wasn't a lot of keeping track of it. No one really cared. And I did a luncheon for a bunch of retired teachers. Actually, it was in Malden. And they got together, and I started telling some stories. And I says, there's one thing I'm frustrated with, is that there's one guy that played in one game in 1961. I don't have his uniform number. And there was a retired teacher, and he says, what was his name? And I says, his name was Willis Perkins, and he actually replaced a guy that Paul Lundquist. And then the guy in the audience said, I know Paul Lundquist. He went to Arlington High School. So, I tried to reach out to him, and I talked to him, and he says, yeah, I was hurt on Thursday. They brought a guy in on Friday. He took my uniform number, and he played Sunday, and then he quit. He says, I don't like to get hit, and he only played in one game. So if I didn't do that lunching in Malden, at some restaurant in Malden, it wasn't the Pearl Street restaurant, but it was another one, but I wouldn't have found out that guy's uniform number, because the Patriots didn't have it, the Buffalo didn't have it, it wasn't in any of the records. They didn't have that stuff. And it took me almost 60 years. From 1960, I think I found it in 2021 or 2022 with this story. And when I called the Patriots, that I finally found this guy, and they put it in the media guide. So the Patriots do have every single uniform number of every player, even if they played in one game. So these stories of just having a vision of completing a process, of doing the right job, finishing the job, completing it, and then getting inspired and encouraged along the way led me to become a life coach. I says, there's a whole bunch of people. I want to write a book. I want to do this. Well, if you have a goal and a vision, you want to surround yourself with people that are going to encourage and support you and just kind of walk you through that. So, for years, I've been a mentor for kids coming out of college. I've talked to kids about their goals. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to have? How are you going to get there? Who's going to surround it? What do you have to do? What are you not willing to do? When people look at the first book, that Total Patriots book, it's 800 pages. It's 15,000 hours of research. But I didn't care. I was 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours a night for 15 years. It was a hobby, but it was fun to keep me out of trouble. And I didn't watch any TV. One of the things that I did is that I lived in Woburn and I worked in Braintree. So it would take me sometimes an hour and a half to get to work. So if I left work at 5, I'd get home at 7, from Braintree. But if I left work at 5 and I went to the Boston Public Library and spent an hour in the Boston Public Library, I'd still get home at 7. So I got an hour of work instead of sitting in traffic. And that just kept me busy, and I met people, inspired people. And one of the things that helped me with that is that as I was writing the book and elevating and getting the bio of all these 1,300 players, I would meet them. I would meet their family. I would meet their grandchildren at different events, and they were thrilled that I would come up with stuff that you couldn't find unless you did the research that I did in libraries and microfilm and eventually getting to the Patriots and getting the play-by-play and having the Patriots on my side and meeting guys that used to work for the team and getting their records in the attic. It was just like this genealogy of just finding out all these things. And who's going to spend that kind of time unless they had a labor of love to do it and unless they got supported along the way? And that's kind of what I want to do with this Untold and Unlimited, is to help people that you're going to run into troubles. You're going to run into, it's going to take longer than you think. But if you have a mentor like me or some of the people in our team, and we coach you up and we show you how to collapse the time frames and how to be a little more aware, or how to network, or how to find the information, or how to do things that might help you. And if you're thinking of other people, then you're not doing it for yourself. I mean, when I wrote this book, I was writing the book for Tommy Addison's family in South Carolina, or Bob Yates, who had passed on in Texas, or for Russ Francis, or, who just passed, guys like that, Steve Grogan, the guys that played in the 60s and 70s. There was no internet back then. There was no stories, and the Patriots really weren't on TV that much. So bringing these stories back. So the two stories that I tell is that I had a book signing in Marblehead, and a 16-year-old girl wanted to get a copy of the book, and I asked her why. She says, because I want to be smarter than any of the boys, and I want to do my homework, and I want to become a reporter or a broadcaster someday, and if I get this book, I'll have a lot of knowledge that these other people won't have. And I looked her right in the eye and says, that's the reason I spent 15,000 hours in those research, to help you and to inspire you and to give you hope that you can do what you want to do if you just put your mind to it. And the other story I have, and I just found out today, there was a book store in Lake Winnipesaukee. It was a little cafe and a bookstore. And my sister hooked me up with them, and they just closed this last couple of days. But they had a tiny little bookstore, and they invited us up, and it was 4 people showed up, but there was one guy that came from Maine, and he drove 2.5 hours in a beat-up old Chevy pickup that couldn't go more than 40 miles an hour. But he came 75 years old to drive and to talk to me about a game in 1964. Now, I wasn't there, but I knew all about it, and I knew the players, and I knew what happened, and we talked for about an hour and a half, and he's like, this is unbelievable. I haven't thought about this, the memories that came back, the emotions, and I says, I wrote this book for you, too, for a 75-year-old guy in the middle of the Maine, to help him bring back some memories of being with his uncle and his family and his dad and going to football and being 10 years old again. So a lot of this Untold and Unlimited is really to share that everyone has a potential, everyone wants to be something, and we kind of release that, and we find out where you are and where you want to go, and we kind of set up a vision board. And I had that vision board when I started doing the research that I didn't know it was going to be 800 pages, but I knew I was going to produce something that no one had ever done before. And I was like, I'm happy and enjoying the process as I go along. And that's what I want to do, is to kind of leave a legacy of, trying to help people.
That is really a process. And as you and I have spoken about this in the past, about time, TIME, things I must experience. And it's that incredible process from the womb to the tomb. And what happens in between is absolutely awe-inspiring. It's really great. So what does someone need to really just become a client of yours? Perspective, a thought? Tell us how someone should approach working with you.
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with a dream. We all have a dream somewhere in our thoughts. We have a vision of something we want to do. So there's really three things that people want. They want to be, they want to do, and they want to have. And the question is, how bad do you want to do that, and when do you want to accomplish those things? So some people are like, well, I'd like to be, but in order to get that done, you really got to be committed to the process. And, if you look at Napoleon Hill and all of the books that are out there, how do you achieve a goal? You write it down, you think about it every day, but you also surround yourself with people that are going to support and encourage you, and for that matter, coach you up. So just about everyone that's successful has some type of coach. And some of them have multiple coaches, dealing with different things. So I'm all about the mindset. I'm all about what your thoughts are, what your beliefs are. And then your thoughts and beliefs, you give a certain meaning to those thoughts and beliefs. And that meaning or the attitude that you have towards those thoughts and beliefs create the action, and then the action gives you results. So with the people that they have a dream, but then they say, I can't, and I'm too old, or I'm not smart enough, or blah, blah, blah. All these limited beliefs, or what we call unintelligent beliefs, or survival beliefs, that's not going to get you where you want to go. 5 years from now is going to go by just like this, and you're going to be in the same spot you are now. So my job as a coach is to kind of bring that out and get some clarity as to what you want, and then figure out a game plan of how to get you there. And if it's a little bit of research, or if there's a little bit of coaching, or if there's a little bit of practice, a lot of what we do is role playing, a lot of bit of dreaming, using your imagination. Come up with a vision board of what you like. You want to be a hairdresser? Okay, let's go to a hairdressing place and figure out, what do you like doing about it? Let's get involved. And what I say is just jump in the pool. Let's go. Let's figure it out. If you want something bad enough, the people that are successful are the people that are optimistic always, and they're resilient, and they'll figure it out. So a lot of what I kind of talk about is stories, is people that have elevated themselves to a level of either a professional athlete or a successful business person, but they all have optimism, and it all comes back to their thoughts. So my job as the coach is to say, all right, you've got certain thoughts. Some are negative, some are survival, but I want to get you in a mindset, in a great gratitude, beginning and ending of a day, so that you have good habits and you have good discipline, good self-awareness, and that you focus on what you want to get done, and you think about it, you write it down, and you get it done quicker that way because it's in your mind, it's in your thoughts, and you have that resiliency and that optimism. And we kind of go through, and there's an assessment as to where you are and where you want to go, and then we set up a game plan to do that. You need to do this. We'll have like a session like we're having here. We'll have a coaching session, 20 minutes, a half an hour, once a week, once a month, depending on how fast you want to get there. And we have homework, and you got to get involved. But in order to get upgraded or elevated, you got to do the work. You got to practice. You got to role play. So in some instances, it's a company. Sometimes I deal with a sales manager. Their message is not getting through to their sales team. They'll bring me in and say, all right, and now we'll tell a story about being relentless or being disciplined or being on time and time management or whatever, and try to get that message of vision and purpose and the impact that you have on people with stories. And people relate the stories and they say, okay, this is how you overcome an obstacle or how you don't get disillusioned or discouraged. And if you do, you're aware of it and you say, all right, what am I have to focus on? And then boom, you go right to that focus and say, what am I doing? How am I doing it? And does that activity help me achieve what I want to achieve? And you snap back out of it and off you go. You make the next call, you do the next thing. So, but the clients that we're looking for are people that are hungry, people that really want more out of their life, and they're coachable. It's a little bit to kind of like, I think I can figure it out myself. Okay, how's that working out for you? Yes. You can do that. I mean, I've read every self-help book for 40 years, but reading and applying it is a totally different thing. So getting that role playing, I kind of look at it as like a training camp. I mean, I look at why does a professional athlete have to go to training camp? They're professional athletes. They know how to throw and run and catch, but they need to work as a team. They need to understand. They got to visualize the game. Patriots, when they were losing 28-3 to the Atlanta Falcons, I've interviewed a lot of players that were on the Patriots for that game, and like, we were confident. We're down by, 28-3. The odds are 1,000-1, but we weren't thinking about that. There was no resistance. We just had to do one play at a time. We just had to outthink them, outwork them, outfocus them, laser focus, make every play. And there's like 20 different instances where the Patriots did what they were supposed to do and Atlanta didn't, with time management and holding and catching and running. I mean, all the different things that are part of just a fundamental game. And the Patriots never led the game. They tied it up on the last play of the game. They win in overtime. But that's because they were confident and they knew what they had to do. They just had to do it in a shorter period of time than the 60 minutes. They had to do it in, 18 minutes to come back and win that game and in overtime. So a lot of that is just being laser focused and practicing and just visualizing that you've already won the game, even though you haven't even played the game yet. Using your imagination of what do you want to be in a year from now? Okay, boom, it's 2024. Where are you now? How do you feel now? You just accomplished something that you never thought you were accomplished. How do you feel? And get into that imagination.
Exactly. Well, Bob, just as a quick aside, have you already made arrangements to be with the Patriots to give them a pep talk and to get them going and get their 2023 season going right
That's
now
it.
so that they could crawl out of the hole that they're in right now? Hopefully you'll be able to.
I mean, part of it is you got to have the talent too. And that's one of the things they have. They've lost a couple of guys. I mean, they're still professional athletes, and anything can happen in any game. There's 3 or 4 games that the Patriots could have made a couple plays and could have won the game. So even though they're 1-5 as of taping of this show, 3 or 4 plays in a game sometimes changes a game. There was 2 games that got blown out, obviously. There are 175 plays in a game, and most of the games are decided within 3 points or less in NFL football. So 3 or 4 games, and that's the secret of winning versus losing, is making the least amount of mistakes, mental mistakes, physical mistakes, and it's mindset. And that's what it's all about. And that's kind of what our company is all about. Untold Unlimited is dealing with your mindset.
Very good. Now, Bob, I'm not going to put you on the spot. This is not an endorsement for any one specific philosopher, one specific writer, author, TV huckster, anything like that. But I'm just going to toss out some names of personalities, if you will. And
Sure.
And I wanted to just toss out and just give me your thoughts on what they represent. I've always been a big fan of Dr. Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits series. What are your thoughts about the 7 Habits?
Oh, that's essential. There's no question. You need to master how to process your life. The habits are everything, and habits are behaviors, and behaviors can be changed. So, your thought process of being focused and having gratitude and having that discipline, the successful people do things that most people don't do, like get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do 20 minutes of exercise and really visualize what their day's going to be about and just kind of get into that mode of thriving and competing and getting in the game, as compared to most people that just, have a cup of coffee, and by the time they get to work, it takes them a half hour to get warmed up, and and then they've lost 2 hours. You only have a certain amount of time in a day to get things done, so be focused. And one of the things that we like to share with Untold Unlimited is show up. When you're engaged, you show up mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Just be ready to go at all times. I mean, I was a Boy Scout, and that was the motto: be prepared. Be prepared for everything. And that's one of the things. Be prepared for all different obstacles and adversity that's going to come up, and just run it right over and say, all right, that's fine. That's going to come up. I'm going to learn from that, and we're going to move on. But Cubby is, some of these guys like that are just magics. It's not a magic secret. It's just habits and it's thoughts.
Absolutely. Tony Robbins.
Yeah, Tony Robbins, I knew about him 40 years ago, and I've attended some of his things, his seminars. He was in Lowell many years ago, and I've written some of his books, and he's all about the same thing. He's all about what you think about. I remember one thing that I saw him in Lowell, and he talked about how to quit smoking cigarettes, and it was all about just think of the most disgusting thing you could ever put in your mouth and then light it on fire, and the next time you have a cigarette and you put it in your mouth, you think that that's the disgusting thing and you're lighting it on fire. It's all a mental process. The brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So when you get into that subconscious of thinking of what you want to do and getting that law of attraction of, all right, the brain wants to achieve what you want it to achieve, and what you feed it is what comes back. So people do things for one or two reasons: to avoid pain and gain pleasure. And avoiding pain is what most people are trying to do. Well, if you want to gain pleasure, then you got to be focused on what you want to do, what you want to be, and what you want to have, and focus on that. So yeah, Tony's amazing.
Absolutely. Now, I always have thought about that river in Egypt called denial.
Yeah.
How many people are in denial?
Oh, most people. Yeah. Self-awareness and emotional intelligence is a new thing nowadays that people are starting to understand. You have a body, and, your job is to take care of it. It's a temple. I mean, one of the things that, I talk a lot about is be who you were born to be. But it's all about you. You control your thoughts. You control where you want to be and what you want to do. And it all goes up here, and the brain accepts all that kind of stuff. One story that I tell about discouragement is, this is a little spiritual, but, the devil's having a yard sale, and he's got guns and he's got knives and he's got all these different things that cause people to do nasty things. But under this blanket, he's got his most powerful tool, and a guy comes over and says, "What's under the blanket?" He says, "Well, it's a little sliver, and it's my most productive, thing to get into people." And it's a little sliver that gets under your fingernail when you start to get discouraged. And when you start to get discouraged, I slip it under your fingernail, and then I just pound a little bit more, and I pound a little bit more, and next thing you know, your finger hurts, and next thing you know, you're totally focused on what's under your finger, and you're not focused on what you want to be, do, and have. And he says, once you get discouraged, then you get disillusioned, then you get anxious, then you get uncertain, and now you're in this merry-go-round. Oh, my God, what do I do? And my whole process is be aware that discouragement is the first step. Just start there, go out, take a breath, get some fresh air, put some music on, but just be aware that this is discouragement. Flush it out, talk about it a little bit, and then move on to the next thing. And the quicker that you can make that adjustment of that negative thought coming into your brain and just pushing it away and saying, all right, no, I got to focus on this, this, and this, and let's get going. Awareness is a big thing for me.
Knowledge, awareness, and understanding. I've always thought about that. I really believe that you have to have three components: knowledge, awareness, and understanding. And just to go back to Dr. Stephen Covey, seek first to understand before you're understood.
Correct.
Some people just don't get it, right?
Yeah, no, it's a tough thing because, then it's not taught in schools, and this should be. But, looking, you hear it all the day, love thy neighbor as thyself, or walking a mile in the other person's shoes. But everyone has issues. Everyone has trauma that they've had to overcome in their life. And that's one of the things is Untold is, all right, you've got some trauma, you've got some issues. Let's flush it out. Let's move on and let's learn from that. And then we can go from there. But don't hold it in. That suppression leads to depression. So unleash it, unlock it, understand that it's in there. But do you want to think like you thought when you were 7 years old? No, you're 35, you're 40, you're 50. Think like a 35 or a 40 or 50-year-old, not like you were 6. So, if a dog bit you when you were 7 years old and now you're afraid of dogs when you're 45, well, you were 7 years old. You didn't really know how to be around a dog or whatever, but not all dogs are nasty and they're going to bite you, But don't have that trauma hold on that dogs are bad for you 40 years later because dogs are lovable, You just happened to be in the wrong situation and maybe you acted scared and it freaked out the dog. You were 7, you're hyper, whatever, So, use your brain as you are now. I mean, the brain doesn't really develop until you're about 20 to 25. So anything that happened before 25, that was just experience that you should learn from so that you don't apply that later in life, that trauma is going to hold you back.
Interesting. So again, it boils back to time, things I must experience.
Yep. And the brain remembers all those things. So you got to kind of reprogram and recalibrate your brain and reimagine what your life wants to be now. And just put those thoughts in your brains. All right, I was 7, I was 15, I was 25. Those things happened. But now that I'm 40, this is what I want to concentrate on. This is what I want to focus on. And this is the impact I'm having on other people. When you think outside of yourself, you think of that 16-year-old girl that you're writing a book for, or that 75-year-old guy that's going to have some joy of reading this or understanding a story. Then I'm not thinking about me that I'm spending 4 hours in the library every other day and like, oh my God, looking up stuff that I can't even read on the microfilm. That wasn't painful for me because I was thinking about that. I was thinking about I need to get this done and I need to do it right and I need to take my time to do the research. So it was part of the journey. It was part of the process, and I enjoyed the process. I don't remember looking back at one time that I regret, like, oh my God, this is horrible. I'm never going to get this done. Those thoughts were not in my mind at all. I had no idea it was going to take me 15 years to do it, but I didn't care. I was meeting people along the way. I was getting paid to speak and entertain and tell stories and receive stories and just, love the process of whatever you're doing and learning. And life is all about a learning experience. If you're not learning and growing, then you're dying.
That's so true. So you finished book number 1. What was the time frame between book number 1 and book number 2?
So that was about 5 or 6 years, I think. I went to Bill Lenkitis' funeral. And Bill Lenkitis was the dentist in the center of the Patriots, and unfortunately he passed on. And at the funeral, there was a whole bunch of Patriots players and people from the Patriots. And they said, we have your Total Patriots book in our display at the Patriots Hall of Fame, but we're thinking of creating a computer display of taking all your information, putting it into a computer, and when people come to the Patriots Hall of Fame, they can, rather than get the book, just press a button and show me every player that played for Michigan and the Patriots. So show me everyone that won number 7, or all the different categories. Can you take all that information, put it in a computer program, and that we can put into a computer display? I don't know. I'm a writer and researcher. I don't know about computer programming. So it took me a few years to find some people to help me. I did more research. I did even more involved. And then when the Patriots in 2018 set up that computer display, I had all the information, and I said, well, now I have another book. I've updated my book that came out in 2009. I'll change a few things, to add some things to it that the Patriots don't necessarily need for their computer display, and my book came out in 2020. So it was kind of a combination of working for the Patriots in the Hall of Fame to do that research, and then putting in another book, and that book's called Relive Patriots History, and that's on Amazon. And my buddy Paul D'Angelo, who's a comedian, he's an artist, and he did the cover for it. So we put Grogan and Brady and a Super Bowl trophy and the helmet of the 1960 team on the cover, and he's an artist and drew caricatures. And so it's been doing well, and So that's it. I never thought that I would do a second book, but since I had the information, might as well just put it all together and get it out there. So that was fun too.
That's fabulous. That's really great. Now you have a business partner, I believe, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, not the Joe Rogan, but another. This is Joseph Rogan. But Joseph Rogan, I met him at a Chamber of Commerce event, and that's how you and I have connected over the years, the Malden Chamber of Commerce, and Ida Joan and Marianne and everyone over there. And his sister married Matt Barr, the kicker of the Giants and the Patriots. So I was telling him, that my second book, We Live Patriots History, had come out. And he says, oh, yeah, my brother-in-law is Matt Barr. And I said, oh, yeah, Matt Barr played professional soccer, and he did this and he did that. And he, built parcels. And I started telling him some stories about, he's like, how do you know all about this? I said, well, I never met him, but I wrote a book, and one thing led to another. And he says, I'm in this ministry, and I try to do things to help people, and I want to elevate their life as well. And I said, well, I think you're on the same page as us. We want to help. We want to mentor. He's a couple of years older than me. And I says, let's do a mentoring program. And then we decided that there's a lot of untold stories out there. I did a podcast for a while doing untold Patriot stories and getting stories from the players and coaches. And we kind of built off that. And we said, all right, people have untold stories. We want to unleash their limited potential. How do we do that? Let's set up a company. And we've got a couple other people in our silo, but Joe Rogan, that's what we'll call him. He's the co-founder of Untold Unlimited, and we work together, and he's got a couple people that I know and a couple people that we both know together, that if we need to bring in a specific trainer or someone that does customer service training or things like that, we can bring people in. And there's a spiritual end to it too. We have people that know the Bible inside and out to really upgrade people from that point of view too, that there's a spiritual vision that they have and what they want to do with their life. So there's a couple different components of the people in our silos with Untold Unlimited. So we're blowing and going with that. I mean, it's a fascinating thing to do one-on-one coaching, but then also deal with companies and the vision and the purpose that they have, and make sure that message is permeating throughout the whole company.
Just absolutely tremendous. Well, Bob, every time I have you on a Paul Ponders episode, I say, wow, we could go on for hours and hours. And really, you are just one of the most knowledgeable, inspirational, genuine people I know. And I want to thank you for being on with Paul Ponders today and Techie Tolonzo in the studio. But let our listeners know, how do they reach you?
Yeah, so follow me on LinkedIn, just Bob Hyldburg, and HYLDBURG. Hyldburg, that D is kind of tough to say. But you can go to our website, Untold and Unlimited LLC. But LinkedIn is probably the best place. I do have a Facebook group that you can join, Untold and Unlimited there. Just Untold and Unlimited, not the LLC. And then I know you've posted some stuff on the other Facebook group that I have, Why We Love Boston. So I post stuff there. And on Instagram, it's same thing, just Bob Hyldburg. Just HYLD as in David, BURG. A lot of people pronounce it Heidelberg and Hindenburg and Chickenburg and Hamburg. I've heard all those nicknames my whole life. But so HYL and then D as in David, Berg. Berg as in village. It's a Danish town outside of Copenhagen. But thanks for that. And then, just touch base with Paul, because Paul, we do a lot of stuff over at the Pearl Street Restaurant, and we're going to be doing some more stuff there, and with Gotham Whale and other things down the road. So we want to give the shout out. So if anyone knows Paul, just reach out to Paul, and Paul will reach out to me. And that's another way people can find out about it, because the connector.
That connector. And that's what it's all about, my friend. That's what it's all about, Alfie. And again, Bob, I would love to have you back on as another guest, a guest in some form in a future episode. Are you willing to come back and join us?
Absolutely. I mean, I know my wife's like, catch your breath. I just went on for 45 minutes without even breathing here. But that's what I do. I'm passionate about helping people and mentoring people and sharing people. And just reach out to us and we'll sit down and talk. I mean, there's no cost to do just a simple question and answer. Where are you? Where you want to go in a couple different categories. And if I can help you, great. If not, contact me in 3 months and 6 months. But it's not hard. It's just a matter of, wanting a little bit, and then I'll inspire and motivate you and coach you up to collapse the time frames to get what you want to go and do what you want to do. You only have one life. Be authentic as possible and be the person you were born to be. And I'm here to help you.
That's what it's all about, my friend. Bob Hyldburg, thank you for being with us this
It's
episode.
been a pleasure. And I know that this is something that's passionate to you, too. I mean, I really appreciate your friendship, and the Paul Ponders podcast has been going crazy, and I know we want to get the word out and get thousands of people across the world. This is a worldwide thing that people need to know about.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Thank you. And yeah, I want to just note that people are really catching on. People are really appreciating the wide variety of guests that I've been able to have on, and it's working out really well. And again, I want to thank one of our first sponsors. A lot of entities have in fact been inquiring on the sponsorship. They do want to see more sponsors, of course, but it's something that Riverworks Credit Union stepped up and they're a sponsor of this podcast. And it's a matter of just reaching out to our friends, our networks, and just making this happen. And you two are a connector. And I thank you. Thank you again, Bob. And we're unleashing human potential. It's what we do every day. We do it with a positive impact. We do it with thoughts, determination, passion, and actions. For every action, there's a reaction. But for every action, there's a proaction. And that's what we're doing. And again, Bob, I want to thank you so much for being with us this episode.
It's an honor and a pleasure. And, let's see what we can do. We can help some people. It's all about serving others. And I'm committed to do that. And I don't care if you're 16 years old or 12 years old. I've talked to those kids. And I don't care if you're 85 years old and you want to do something simple. And you need some just support and encouragement. I'm here for you.
#Indeed. Thank you.
Thanks much.
I trust that you have enjoyed #Paul Ponders. Again, my name is Paul Solano of PS&All Marketing Group, and I may be reached via email at paul@paulponders.com to do some more pondering. Many thanks to my longtime collaborative friend and associate, Alonso Amos of PodPro Entertainment, in bringing you our fun, exciting, and informative podcasts. You rock, Techie Alonso. With PS&All Marketing Group, I created a side gig to connect you and get things done. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me at paul@paulponders.com with any questions. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Paul Ponders. Follow us on Twitter at Paul Ponders Pod. Follow us on Instagram at Paul Ponders Podcast. Thank you again for listening to #Paul Ponders, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our website, paulponders.com, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by PodPro Entertainment, #Paul Ponders lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #the new radio. Until we meet again, my friend, stay well. #Indeed.